Render thanks unto thy Lord, O Carmel. Rejoice, for God hath in this day established upon thee his throne, hath made thee the dawning place of his signs, and the dayspring of the evidences of his revelation. Well is it with him that circleth around thee, and recounteth that which the bounty of the Lord thy God hath showered upon thee.
He verily loveth the spot which hath been made the seat of his throne, which his footsteps have trodden, which hath been honored by his presence, from which he raised his call, and upon which he shed his tears.
And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths.
This is holy ground. This is not ordinary earth. This is the place on the earth where the prophets of God walked. This is where all the dreams of the poets of the past have come from this place. And in years gone by, they dreamed of what this mountain would look like when it was covered with all the people of the earth, when all the people would come, and when the laws would flow. And now we are the people who are seeing this prophecy coming true. It's an extraordinarily spiritual place.
Mount Carmel. The modern-day fulfillment of its ancient destiny began in 1868, when a ship carrying Baha'u'llah and a small band of persecuted exiles paused here, en route to the cruel imprisonment waiting across the bay, the foul and desolate fortress of Akka. What to outward appearance was the end of Baha'u'llah's influence marks the beginning of the efflorescence of Mount Carmel, the appearance of the seat of God's throne. Following the relaxation of his confinement, Baha'u'llah again visited Carmel, stood near these trees, and pointed out to Abdul-Baha the spot upon which he should construct the Shrine of the Bab. During his last visit to the mountain in the closing years of his life, Baha'u'llah pitched his tent near this spot and revealed the Tablet of Carmel, the charter for the institutions of the Baha'i faith at its world center. Just below, the ancient cave of Elijah and the Carmelite monastery, where monks kept vigil to watch for the return of Christ. According to eyewitness accounts, Baha'u'llah's voice was so powerful and compelling that the monks came out of the monastery to listen as the tablet of Carmel was revealed.
Call out to Zion, O Carmel, and announce the joyful tidings. He that was hidden from mortal eyes is come. Ere long will God sail his ark upon thee, and will manifest the people of Baha.
Following the ascension of Baha'u'llah in 1892, Abdul-Baha labored with single-minded determination to raise the shrine of the Bab and fulfill the instructions of his father. Finally, on the evening of Nowruz in 1909, he laid with his own hands the sacred remains of the Bab within the modest shrine he had constructed on Mount Carmel. One day in 1915, Abdul-Baha told one of his companions that the sublime shrine has remained unbuilt. To another, he said, "The shrine of the Bab will be built in the most beautiful and majestic style." That task was to fall to Shoghi Effendi, together with the even greater challenge of giving form to the institutions of the World Administrative Center called into being in the Tablet of Carmel. For 36 years, Shoghi Effendi devoted himself to the development of this sacred spot in the midst of God's holy mountain. The hand of the cause of God, Amatul Baha Rahia Khanum, widow of the beloved guardian, was a witness to the way in which Shoghi Effendi carried forward the work of adorning the seat of God's throne.
Boy, that's going to be quite a climb in the future. But it's the way of the kings. According to Abdul-Baha, they would come barefooted and bareheaded from the foot of the mountain to visit the shrine. And that's the way the Baha'is will come in the future. It's 9 terraces, and it will be developed by the Universal House of Justice during the coming years to be much more monumental. In the future, that whole panel will be engraved with Kufic script from the writings of the Bab in Arabic. And we're waiting for the day when we can find somebody who knows it well enough to make the designs, and expert stone cutters come who are capable of doing it. And the same thing holds for the panels up at the top around the building. The whole thing will have excerpts from the writings of the Bab. In 1928, Shoghi Effendi added 3 more rooms here at the back because he knew that it had to be symmetrical, 9 rooms with the body of the Bab in the center. And then in 1944, he unveiled the plan for the superstructure of the tomb of the Bab. My father was a very famous Canadian architect, and he was living here with Shoghi Effendi and me during the war and after the war. And the Guardian said, I want you to design this structure of the Bab Shrine. And this model of this building was unveiled officially in 1944, the 100th anniversary of the beginning of the Baha'i faith. Every single drawing was a detailed drawing made by my father. And the artists there, the carvers, used to say that all we need is one of Mr. Maxwell's drawings, and we can cut from that direct on the stone. We know exactly what we have to do. He was a very fine draftsman, a fine artist, and a fine architect. And all of this Shoghi Effendi supervised himself. I can't go into the details, but he had the whole project carried out directly under his supervision. He used to come, it was in war years when we had no pilgrims, he used to come and stand here and direct the laborers with the excavations. And whenever a shipment arrived, Shoghi Effendi would send a message to the Baha'is all over the world telling them that we have received so and so many stones for the shrine. He made it so romantic. Frankly, it wasn't romantic for us. It was all very, very hard work.
This magnificent edifice, described as the day spring of divine splendor, the heaven of heavens, the Queen of Carmel, was chosen by Baha'u'llah to become the spiritual center round which the administrative institutions of a new world order would gradually be established. After the passing of the greatest holy leaf in 1932, Shoghi Effendi interred her remains in close proximity to the shrine of the Bab. A few years later, he brought here the remains of the purest branch, martyred son of Baha'u'llah, and of his mother, Nawab, described by Baha'u'llah as his consort in all the worlds of God.
I don't think that the Baha'is appreciate the fact that this monument of the sister of Abdul-Baha, the greatest holy leaf, Bahia Khanum, is really the hub of all of this development that we are looking at the present time on Mount Carmel, except for the shrine of the Bab, which is, of course, a fixed point of the forerunner of the Baha'i faith. What people don't understand is that this tremendous love and respect that Shoghi Effendi had for his great aunt, for the sister of Abdul-Baha, his beloved grandfather, and the fact that he instructed that she should be buried here on Mount Carmel was the point of the development of this entire arc. And I think that one has to realize that the Guardian himself laid all of these gardens out. He chose the position. He, with his own hands, I was present the night that he entombed these remains here with so much reverence and respect, and hundreds of Baha'is in torchlight gathered around while they were buried here. This place is so full of not only history, but of significance. Shoghi Effendi did almost everything himself.
Under the guiding hand of Shoghi Effendi, these exquisite gardens developed into the fulcrum of a far-flung ark on Mount Carmel. In 1954, Shoghi Effendi announced plans to erect the International Baha'i Archives, first of the 5 great institutions to grace that ark.
The interesting thing about this archives, which is the Museum of Baha'i Historic Objects, is that it was not only designed, as you can see, in the Greek style, based roughly on the proportions of the Parthenon, but Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith, did something I have never seen before in my life. He developed the whole garden in front of the building before it was built. And he built the building from the back into the empty space towards the front. So that when the building was completed, the whole garden was completed in front of it, and the trees were growing, and everything was beautiful. And he lived to see this. He didn't live to see himself to furnish the interior, but he lived to see this beautiful building that was really his conception. The architect said, I have nothing to do with this building. This building was designed by Shoghi Effendi. And it set the pace for all of these buildings on the ark.
In the 30 years following the passing of its guardian, the Baha'i faith witnessed rapid growth and the development of the unique institutions comprising the World Administrative Center. The Universal House of Justice, the people of Baha mentioned in the Tablet of Carmel, was first elected in 1963. The institutions of the Continental Boards of Counselors and the International Teaching Center were created to carry on the functions of protection and propagation. In the face of the extreme hardships caused by the cruel persecutions of the Baha'is in Iran, and strengthened by the sacrifices of scores of heroic martyrs, the worldwide Baha'i community successfully completed the second of the 5 monumental structures on the ark, the seat of the Universal House of Justice.
Main building of the whole ark, of course, is the central body of our Baha'i faith, the seat of the Universal House of Justice. And if you look at the building, under the dome, up under the portico, is the meeting chamber of the members of the House of Justice, which at present is composed of 9 people. And they meet a number of times a week in order to discuss the affairs of the Baha'i faith and the administrative problems that have arisen, and of course other matters that concern them. And this is the guidance and the adaptation of these teachings to the momentary needs of the development of the Baha'i faith and to our fellow men in any way we can help them, that flows from that building in the center of the ark. It's a tremendously impressive operation that goes on here, spiritually and practically.
On April 30th, 1987, the Universal House of Justice announced that the Baha'i world is finally within reach of the realization of the beloved guardian's vision for the ark on God's holy mountain. In these closing years of the 20th century, the attention of the Baha'i world will be focused on 5 closely related projects of great importance. Abdu'l-Baha envisioned terraces extending from the foot of the mountain to its crest. These 19 monumental terraces were often referred to by the Guardian, who completed in preliminary form the 9 terraces constituting the approach to the shrine from the foot of the mountain. The International Teaching Center will serve as the seat of that institution invested with the twin functions of the protection and propagation of the faith. Established in 1973, the International Teaching Center brings to fruition the work of the hands of the cause of God residing in the Holy Land and provides for the extension of their functions into the future. The Center for the Study of the Sacred Texts, the seat of an institution of Baha'i scholars, will develop out of the present research department at the World Center, assisting the Universal House of Justice in consulting the sacred writings, coordinating translations, and preparing commentaries on the authoritative texts of the faith. The basement of the Archives building erected by the Guardian will be extended westward to accommodate the central office of the ever-growing archives at the World Center, preserving for future generations the sacred texts, relics, and historic documents of the faith. Original tablets of the Bab, Baha'u'llah, Abdul-Baha, letters of Shoghi Effendi, the records of the Universal House of Justice, the International Baha'i Library, central depository of all literature published on the faith. It is an essential source of information for the institutions of the World Center on all subjects relating to the faith itself and to the conditions of humanity in general. In future decades, this library will serve as an active center for knowledge in all fields, becoming the kernel of great institutions of scientific investigation and discovery. The magnitude and significance of this undertaking, the sense of being a part of history in the making, has a powerful impact upon Baha'i pilgrims who come here from all over the world.
I can't explain how I feel, because you see, for me, it's like a dream. You know, it's just like, it's not really me here. I just can't believe it. It's like I'm still reading the books, you know, when I read the story of the Bab, Abdul-Baha. And to imagine really I'm here, I can't put it into words.
It was just unbelievable, you know, it was within the reach of our understanding.
It's wonderful. It's incredible.
Bien, feliz, como contento y me alegro, pero
yes, it's wonderful, but at times I feel like crying, thinking of all the suffering of Shoghi Effendi.
I'm overwhelmed by the beauty and the sacredness of even these buildings, you know, the administration buildings. But even these buildings are very holy to me and very beautiful, and, well, it uplifts you when you are here.
I wish all the Baha'is in the world could be here. It would give them an idea of the grandeur and the stature of the faith.
The Chinese, we have an expression that we say that a person is not great until they have visited the Great Wall. But when I come here, I feel such beauty, such magnificence, that I feel that coming here makes one feel much greater than the Great Wall.
The feeling one gets when one walks up the steps to the seat is that this is the promised kingdom of God, and that we are experiencing it right here in the Holy Land. It is a reality. It is not a prophecy anymore. It's here and now.
And to be a Baha'i experiencing this is just wonderful. Wish you could share it with everybody in just one word and say, here it is.
In designing the remaining buildings of the Ark, architect Hossein Amonat is scrupulously faithful to the architectural patterns established by Shoghi Effendi.
And the buildings are really elements to decorate the garden. They are pavilions in the garden. They are, we were not aiming to fill up the area with buildings and then make the importance of the garden secondary to the buildings themselves. I have tried to keep the spaces in between the buildings maximum and make the outer part of this building, the symbolic part of them, the pavilions is what I call them, minimum but functional. That means you have a building which has to be very beautiful and in harmony, as the Guardian had mentioned. On one hand, you are really building a monument. On the other hand, you are building something very functional. This is really why these buildings are looking like that, because they are going to be here for 1,000 years at least. Because of that, we are building these buildings in a way, in terms of durability, that they would last for a very, very long time. That's why the cost per square meter of these buildings are higher than the ordinary buildings. And it's really a present that the Baha'i faith gives to the whole world for a period of the history of mankind.
For the preliminary design of the terraces to the Shrine of the Bab, architect Farabor Sahba was inspired by Shoghi Effendi's description of the shrine as the center of 9 concentric circles encompassing the entire planet.
The gardens that we have here can crystallize that idea, this dawa'ir tas'iyya sufiyya, as he explained in Persian, that we get the feeling from writings that I have gone through, that the Shrine of the Bab is really a center, and from this there are spiritual waves that goes out. I really felt that we have to do something that when people are walking through it, they feel they're going to the holy presence of the Bab and to the center, to the heart of the world. We designed something which is really like flow of the stream of water on the mountain. It comes from the top of the mountain to the bottom, and it invites you from when you are going up or when you are coming down to the shrine. Everything is directing you toward all the lines of landscape. They are directing you toward the center of this 9 concentric circles, which is Shrine of the Bab.
It's a joint enterprise, and the littlest and the biggest can have a part in it, and the part is something that is service to the whole of mankind, people, every country, everywhere in the world.
It must make us wish to sacrifice ourselves more and work relentlessly and tirelessly unto the end of the century, when that great blessed moment will come when our eyes will witness the lesser peace. And all their detractors and all those who question the power of the cause of God will see before them how great this cause is.
We have to work hard to contribute to the fund to get those buildings up. We have to talk and teach as never before, because this is for everybody.
This is our hope, yes, hope of the world.
It might well be the last major project we'll ever get to do, and the Baha'i should not be deprived of this privilege.
Anything that any of us can do, we would willingly do, whatever service.
And it's the Baha'is that are going to have to sacrifice not just money, but also in service and also their lives. I think we see with the martyrs that their sacrifice at this particular time is very important, because this is the time where the Baha'is have to grow the most. And this is the time where the sacrifices are the most needed. And I feel that's why the sacrifices are coming at this time.
No matter what the House of Justice asks us to do, we will be ready. We will be willing, even if it means the last and only thing we have will be ready. I personally will be ready to give it. Thank you.
And in thousands of years from today, people will walk on these mountains and they will see that there was a wonderful generation of Baha'is who sacrificed themselves, who gave themselves to God, and who built this wonderful, wonderful World Center.
I don't think it's too difficult. It's just easy when we realize how important task it is for us.